Nobody would have thought that I would be the one. Rhyner, sports talk. Baseball, 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 baseball.
Oh, with the big mic. Oh, okay. All right, yeah. Okay, now I get it.
We got a lightning strike, boys. What happened over there, Grego? We had a little lightning strike right outside the window.
All right. Here's a tip for all these Americano League teams.
Wait, you said tip?
Yeah, tip.
Okay.
With a P.
Keep jamming.
The ticket, colon, nothing but a big Gen X jerk-off session.
This is a cool night or what? Although somebody would hear that and go, bullshit.
I'm back, bitches.
Well, hi, everybody. We're on. We're rolling. We're underway. It is another episode of Your Dark Companion. This is the 16th of July, episode 132 of this thing. 34? All right, 134.
But who's counting?
Yeah,
Take two.
Who's counting anyway? And today, we emanate live from the Maplewood Social Club. And I think we've got something pretty special for you today. I think you're going to like this a whole lot. I know I'm going to like doing it a whole lot. We have Grego with us today. Hi, Grego.
Hello, Rhines.
And in addition to him, we have rounded up all four of the radio play-by-play guys from each professional sports team in this town. And we're going to talk about not so much about the team, the state of the team, although I am going to give them a chance to sound off on that directly here. But mostly, I want to talk to you guys about how you do this thing you do, which so enthralls the rest of us. So let's introduce everybody. Down on the far end down here, he is the play-by-play voice of the Rangers for 47 years, did I hear you say?
That is correct, since 1979.
He is the great Eric Nadel.
Hey, everybody.
And on his left, the radio play-by-play voice of the Dallas Mavericks for how many years?
21.
21 years. You probably know him as Chuck Cooperstein. I know him as the higher authority, so give it up for him.
I know him as the man that got Jack Del Rio and Mike Saxon mixed up.
This is true.
Easy mistake.
And on his left, probably the newcomer amongst this bunch, in view of the fact that his sport has not been around here quite as long as the others, but he has certainly made his place here. He is the simulcast voice of the Dallas Stars, Josh Bogorad.
Yeah. There's no probably about it, Ryan. I feel like I'm learning to walk right now at this table, so I am 100% the newcomer up here today.
And on his left, and my immediate right, probably the guy who did more without even knowing it to get me into this game than anybody else because I listened to him.
I'm so sorry.
I apologize. I love you for it. And I thought, boy, that's what I would like to be. Unfortunately, I can't be him because there's only one him. You know him as the radio voice of the Dallas Cowboys, the great Brad Sham.
Oh, yeah.
The dean of it all. All right, now I did mention that I want to talk to you guys about how it is you do that thing that you do. But first, to mollify everybody who might be more interested in this and to protect myself from, man, you didn't even talk about what's going on with the team right now. Let us give you a chance to discuss this. Let's start with Eric Nadel, since you are the one that's in season right now. You were at the All-Star break, and heading into the All-Star break, I'm very leery about saying this because I've thought this numerous times throughout the course of the season. It has proved to be not so. But as they entered the All-Star break, guys were starting to hit, and I feel a little bit more upbeat about the whole thing than I might have otherwise felt.
I agree. I mean, the offense has produced pretty consistently for a month now.
Yeah.
Talking about at least 4 to 5 runs a game, which, based on the pitching they're getting, should be more than enough. Unfortunately, there's a hole out there that nobody's really talking about, and that's the late inning relief. You look at the ERA of the bullpen, it's very pretty. It's the second or third best in the league. You look at some of the other numbers, opposing batting averages, looks pretty good. Look at the one-loss record of the 4 high-leverage relievers: Milner, Jackson, Martin, Garcia. 3 and 17.
I thought one-loss records don't matter anymore in baseball pitching.
They matter in the bullpen if you lose. They don't matter if you win. They matter if you lose. It means that you are losing games you come into when it's tied, and you're losing games you come into when you're leading. That is a huge, huge obstacle to the Rangers making the playoffs. And I don't know how exactly they're going to fix that. I think John Gray might be the answer. They say they don't have the money to go out and pay the salary of whoever they might acquire in a trade, a more big-name type late-inning reliever, because they're right up against the threshold unless they trade somebody. So I don't know how they're going to work that out, but they have to do something about that for me, or they're not a playoff team.
All right, let's go to Brad Sham here because his team is up next. Training camp is nigh up on us.
On deck, as we say.
On deck. What are you looking for from this thing this year?
Well, the first thing I'm looking forward to is Oxnard because it's 30 degrees cooler.
Right.
So I'll go out there and see you in a month.
It's a wonderful trip.
But the damn place is on fire.
No, it's not.
Oh.
Oxnard's not on fire.
Oh, okay.
Look, they're I think, better on paper than they were last year. They certainly had a better off-season than they did last year, but they've got a lot of intangibles, a lot of things that nobody knows. You can't tell anything. Coaches can tell things from OTAs and mini camps because they also have them in meetings, and they know we can't tell anything. We see one OTA a week and 2 days of mini camps, and it's the Underwear Olympics, and we don't even know what they're being asked to do. You can tell a couple of things, but not very much. You can't tell anything about offensive linemen and very little about defensive linemen. So I think that on paper, they have a chance to absolutely be better than last year, presuming they won't have the rash of injuries that they did last year, which contributed to. Here's what's a positive. The atmosphere was not good going into camp last year, going through the offseason. I just thought last year was the first time I could remember that I didn't feel like they had done everything they could do to make the team better from the year before. But this year, I don't feel that way. They signed a lot of guys who they don't have to be superstars, and most of them aren't going to be, but they're going to be better than what they had. They're going to be contributors, and then we'll see. There's a bunch of guys in the secondary who I don't know when they're going to be on the field, but it won't be at the beginning of camp. So that'll all play itself out. But I think they're definitely going to be more interesting than they were a year ago, and if everything falls together, they can contend to be a playoff team. I wouldn't predict it, but they can contend for it.
All right, let's go to the higher authority, Chuck Cooperstein, because talk about makeovers. Talk about something not looking like it did a year ago. The team that you work for, the Dallas Basketball Mavericks, certainly fall under that heading.
They do. It's been, frankly, the wildest 5 months that I've ever been a part of, and I dare say that any sports fan has ever seen. The emotions have been run from one end to the other, but in the end, they're still a really good team. And I've been lucky for 20 years, now 21, that I've always had that player. That guy, and in the NBA, that's probably more important than in any other sport because they're on the court for at least 3/4 of the game, if not more. That guy that when you walk into the building that night, you never know what you're going to see. That you're probably going to see something really special. I mean, I had it with Dirk for 14 years. I had it for Luka for 6.5 years with the overlap with the Luka's rookie year and Dirk's last year. And now, Cooper Flag coming to town and just, having watched him in person here when they played SMU back in early January, having watched a lot of him because I'm one of the few that actually likes regular season college basketball, so I actually, do watch games. Seeing him there and just knowing what he's capable of as an 18-year-old. I mean, and that's the thing that I think we all have to understand about him. He's not turning 19 until December 21st. He's the second youngest player to ever be drafted into the NBA. Only LeBron was younger. He's a different player than Luka. He does things differently, but the one thing that I think we saw, even in a meaningless summer league game against the Lakers, is that he will make plays that help you win. He will always do something that makes his team better. He may be 5 of 21 from the floor, but he may grab 10 rebounds. Yeah. He may have 3 steals. Or there may be a game where he goes for 30 when they do need him to score. The great thing is that he's really not under a whole lot of pressure as an overall number one compared to some others because he's got some really good players around him. And there'll be one more really good player around him when Kyrie comes back sometime, around February 1st or, whenever that is. They're a really good team. The rest of the Western Conference, save for Utah and New Orleans, is really good. So, basically every game you're playing is going to feel like a playoff game on some level. And I'm really interested to see, how the Mavericks handle this, even as it relates to other teams in the West. Can you really rest guys early in the season? Yeah. It's one thing, you get to the midway point of the season, and usually 30 games is a pretty good indicator of where you are and how you stand. And then you can start messing around with lineups and whatnot and resting them. Jason Kidd has always been one. He loves to experiment in the first 30 games of the year. He wants to see what he has and then, ramp it up and build it up toward a playoff appearance. I don't know if you have that luxury of true experimentation right now because the team's going to look one way to begin the year, and they're probably going to look another way, if and when Kyrie does come back. So there's a lot to look at. There's a lot to be interested in. And I always find that the journey incredibly fascinating. I know everybody wants to get to May and June, but November and December are going to be just as fascinating with this team this year.
I'm listening to Chuck talk about 14 years of Dirk and 6.5 years of Luka, and I'm thinking about some of the teams Eric and I have had to look at in 47 years. And I love you, so I hope the law of averages don't catch up with you. Because let me tell you, you don't want any of that.
All right, let's go to Josh Bogorad now. The Stars have been in the Final Four for what, 2 years in a row? 3 years in a row?
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm fine with that. But the masses are not. The masses want a Stanley Cup, Josh.
Well, the Stars want a Stanley Cup too, right? Everybody does. That's what you're playing for. And I think where the Stars are right now, it's this really interesting and great place to be because, I think about when a decade and a half, 13 years ago, the team was in bankruptcy, and they didn't really have those star players that, we're all talking about right now. And now they've got one of the best nucleuses that you'll find. They've made it to the conference final for 3 straight years. Because they haven't gone all the way, there's still that giant carrot that remains. But it's kind of been an exercise in, a shift in where this team's expectations are. And expectations are a wonderful thing to have. The reality in all of our sports is that all but one team is going to end somewhat disappointed, right? It doesn't matter how far you go. If you're not the last one standing, there's going to be that ultimate disappointment, especially when you feel like you're good enough to be there knocking on the door. The Stars are. You don't get to the Final Four 3 straight years without being good enough to win it all. Now, at the same time, the organization has made a pretty huge change in behind the bench with a new coach. So you've got Glenn Gulletson coming back, and one of the game's really like young, fantastic minds. And you say young, he's been around for a long time. You go back to when he was last with the Stars, which was around that last time that we were talking about, when he didn't have a roster like he's about to inherit this season. And it really feels like the possibility of this perfect marriage where you've got that kind of coach that can do something now with the team that he's never had before. And you do have those players, and whether they're household names in Dallas, whether they're household names throughout the NHL, the Stars have players, and they have them at all positions that are players that you build Stanley Cup winning teams around, and they've got more than one. And the Mikko Rantanen trade that kind of took the hockey world by storm at the trade deadline last year, now his contract is just about to kick in. This is year one of an 8-year deal he signed. So you've got really talented players, young players, players in their prime, a team that's been knocking on the door, but there's some other teams that are that way as well. And I listen to Coop talk about how good the Mavs are, but how good the teams that are standing in their way are. I think the Stars are kind of in that spot too, but it makes for such an intriguing upcoming season because there's no question they are good enough to win a Stanley Cup. But there are other teams that are going to be able to say that same thing, and now you got to go out there and take a lot of similarities from the last 3 years with some pretty key changes behind the bench and maybe in the way they're going to play. And yeah, October's right around the corner, and I think there's a lot to look forward to and a lot of intriguing stuff.
No shortage of storylines here in our Fairburg.
No.
That's for sure. All right, now, enough of that. I got you guys here because...
That's our show. Good night, everybody.
I got you guys here because I want to talk to you about how you do that thing you do, what got you into it. Let's start with your early influences. When did you know that this was something you wanted to do, and who, along the way, shaped you that way? Eric, you want to start?
Yeah, I should turn my mic on. I found out when I was about 7 years old that Mel Allen and Red Barber, who were broadcasting the Yankee games that I was listening to, were actually getting paid to do it. And when I found that out, I told my dad, who was a dentist, you know, Dad, they have a much better job than you. They get to go to Yankee Stadium and eat hot dogs and smoke Camel cigarettes and drink Ballantine beer and have a good time, and they get paid for that, and you're going to go and, you know, fill some cavities. That's what I'm going to do. And he explained to me, you know, there's only 16 teams and there's 2 announcers per team, so there's 32 jobs, and yeah, why don't you go to law school? But I was determined to do it, and even more determined when I was in high school and Marv Albert started doing the New York Rangers and the New York Knicks. He did all of the home games. He had the greatest job in the world. He never had to travel. Whichever team played at home, he did those games on the radio. The games on the road weren't on radio. They were just on TV. That's how they did it back then. But anyway, I loved listening to him do both the Knicks and the Rangers, and that convinced me. You know, he was a kid from the neighborhood, too, in Brooklyn, and that convinced me that this is something that I should really seriously pursue.
Chuck, you want to go next?
Marv was my guy, too. Marv was the guy that I had the transistor radio on under my pillow so that my parents couldn't hear, and who I fell asleep to. And I probably realized when I was, early teens that I wasn't going to grow to be 7 feet tall, and I was not committed enough to hit 500 golf balls a day to be like Jack Nicklaus. But I love sports, and I knew I could talk, and this was going to be my way in. And so I pretty much knew then. I went to college in Florida, and we had a great lab there, and got to do a ton. I did baseball. I always thought I wanted to be a baseball guy because I love the Mets.
But you hate baseball.
No. I loved baseball. Adored baseball, and adored.
Past tense.
It was.
Yes.
Not when he worked for me.
I had to watch bad Ranger baseball.
Well, now we come full circle.
But listen, I loved Lindsey Nelson, Ralph Kiner, and Bob Murphy. I mean, they were the Mets guys, and they were and I loved it. But then I realized when I was in college, really, and I was doing college baseball in Florida, that my God, they play every day. And I kind of know my temperament and how I like to do things. I said, I can't do this every day. I mean, I don't know how they do this every day and make it sound fresh and make it sound real. So I kind of got away from that. And then, of course, yes, I did have to go to Arlington Stadium and sit out in the high press box in the auxiliary box in right field.
You didn't have to.
No.
Got to.
Oh, no. Well, as part of the job obligations, I had to. And yes, and had to go down and visit with Doug Rader and Bobby Valentine and some players who probably didn't want to talk to me after games. And figured, I don't need this. But I love basketball, and I always my high school coach was Lou Carnesecca's first grade point guard at St. John's, and he got me involved at Florida. The head coach at Florida had been Dean Smith's top assistant at North Carolina for 8 years before he took the Florida job. But my coach knew him, and he got me on as a student manager. So that's where I was my first 2 years, and just learned more about basketball than I could ever possibly wanted to know. Made me fall in love with it even more, and that's kind of where I wound up. But I mean, I loved all sports and wanted to do all sports. I mean, I did 7 minutes of hockey. I did 7 minutes of Stars hockey.
There were 7 fantastic
They were 7 incredible minutes, and with no whistle for 7 minutes.
Just go. Just go the entire time.
But I would love to do it all.
I would have loved to have heard that. Somehow I missed it.
We got to get the tape somewhere.
How did that happen?
So it happened because it was the day that the Stars retired Neil Broughton's number. And we were at Reunion Arena, and Ralph Strangis was on the ice doing the ceremony. It was a Saturday afternoon. Razor was away doing Fox when Fox had the rights. So when he was away, WBAP had the rights to the games. I was at WBAP, and I filled in on those games. Well, Reunion Arena did not have an elevator that could get you up to the press box, and Fox was not waiting for the play-by-play announcer to get to the press box to start the game. So, I mean, they do the ceremony, they raise the banner, get everybody on the ice, they start, and literally it is 7 minutes nonstop. I mean, rolling lines. I mean, no whistles, no nothing, and finally, Guy Carbon.
You were born for that.
Yeah, Guy Carbonneau threw it right into the chest of I can't even remember who they were playing that day, and then Ralph looked at me. I'm here. Let's go. But it was great. It was great.
So you want to keep going?
Yeah. It was so much fun. It was, and I love hockey. I think hockey's just, especially on the playoff level, like for all of us, playoff games are better. But just, I love the pace of hockey, and I love the physicality of it, and it's one of those games, probably more so than any other sport, where it's better when you're in the building.
I'm disappointed you gave up your seat.
Yeah, no. Just give him the Heisman.
Knock it off, Ralph. I got this covered.
I know my role.
You knew.
I've always known my role.
You knew Ralph was going to be down there. You and I have talked about this, but no one knew it was going to go 7 minutes. Did you know that you were prepared for some time, or was it a total?
No. I knew. I knew there was.
Were you prepped for those?
I was prepped the way I would always prep. Knew the players had stats.
Did you memorize the numbers and the names? Did you memorize all the numbers?
It couldn't have been 7 great minutes if you didn't know the numbers.
Well, now let's put it this way. I don't know if it was 7 great minutes. It was.
This boy.
It was 7 minutes.
I promise you, it was 7 great minutes.
He is ready. He's ready at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Don't worry. He's ready to go.
That's like the Bob Prince story. When the Penguins came to Pittsburgh, they wanted to win fans. They had Bob Prince do the games on the radio. He was the legendary Pirates announcer. Knew nothing about hockey, and the puck was dropped, and his play-by-play was something like, "And the puck is dropped, and we've got it." Oh, now they've got it. Oh, we got it again. Oh, they hit him.
That sounds like Larry Munson doing Georgia football.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh, how'd you get into this?
I think like everybody up here, I wanted to do this when I was a kid also, and I grew up in Los Angeles, and I feel it's kind of surreal to be up here and listening to these stories, because I think that if you are a young person and a sports fan in Dallas right now, or you have been for the last 20 years, the fact that you've got to listen to the guys to my left and right, I think that if you have an itch to be a sports play-by-play broadcaster, this just feeds it so much, because you get to listen to Brad, you get to listen to Coop, you get to listen to Eric, and I grew up in a time in Los Angeles where we kind of had a trifecta of people like that, where Vin Scully was calling Dodger games, Chick Hearn was calling Lakers games, and Bob Miller was calling Kings games. And so if you were someone like me that was a massive sports fan, and you kind of had an idea that you wanted to get into play-by-play, and I'm talking about being so young that you don't even know what that really means of getting into play-by-play, but I would just watch games. I would listen to games. I would consume as much sports as possible because I had a passion for it from the earliest point that I can hold a memory. And I think without even actively trying to emulate and say, I want to be that guy, or I want to do what that guy does, just by virtue of listening to these people call games the way they did, you just kind of, or at least I did, I woke up one day and I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I don't think I ever set out to say that that's what I wanted to do. It just kind of found me. And so I think back to when I was 9, 10 years old, and that was what I wanted to do, because I had just, through osmosis, watched and listened, and the idea of doing that. And I think the fact that I'm here in Dallas, I've told people before that to do hockey in Dallas, for me on a personal level, is so special, because I know that there's people every single year who are finding the game for the first time. And growing up in Los Angeles, where all of my friends were baseball fans and basketball fans and football fans, and they weren't really hockey fans, I had to stumble in and sort of find the sport. And it was the play-by-play guys who taught the game to me. And it was before the internet. You couldn't go up and watch old games. You couldn't go and figure out the rules. It was the play-by-play guys who were introducing and teaching the game to me. And learning it that way, it was such an amazing thing to basically learn a sport through the broadcast. And so now I've been doing this for a while, and people come up every year and they say, I went to my first game, I watched my first game, I can't believe how amazing this is, I can't wait to come back. And anytime somebody tells me that, or says that they watched a game and that helped introduce them to the sport, I think about being 8, 9 years old and being that person. And that's something that means so much to me, because I can identify with that. So, look, I don't think any of us had the opportunity to pick exactly the route that took us to where we were, but I knew that this is what I wanted to do. I traveled all over the country and took random jobs and went as north as Alaska before I came down to Dallas, just because that's where the best job was at the time. But I feel so fortunate that I landed where I am right now, especially doing hockey in Dallas, and now getting to play a very small role in some people who are finding the sport and loving the sport, because it doesn't feel that long ago that I was somebody in Southern California that was going through that same thing and just saying, one day I want to do that, and still kind of pinch myself that day is now.
Brad?
Mike?
How about you? What got you? Who did you listen to?
Well, I was a young teenager in Chicago and watched the Cubs and the White Sox both every day.
Mm-hmm. How were the Black Sox?
Starting to gray. And the Cubs played only day games. So they were on TV in the afternoon, and the White Sox were on at night. I watched them both. And I had an epiphany one day that the guys when I'm watching these games, I'm hearing the same announcers every day. Well, that means they're at the ball game every day. I want to go to the ball game every day. And unlike Eric, I didn't have a concept of that they were getting paid or what that meant or that they were making a living. I just wanted to go to the ball game.
That Eric's smarter than any of us.
Yes. I just wanted to go to the ball game, and was lucky enough to have a high school that had a little FM band, and so as a Senior, I did the baseball and basketball games, play-by-play, and I went to Missouri because back in the '12s when I went to college, there weren't as many outstanding broadcast schools as there are now. So Missouri was the best undergraduate journalism program in the country. I believe they still are. And that was the best avenue for me to take. Jack Brickhouse was my guy. He did Bears radio, Cubs and White Sox television, and I just thought he was phenomenal. And then younger than that, we moved around a lot through the living in the Midwest especially, and you could hear either WGN or you could hear KMOX in St. Louis. And so I heard a lot of Jack Buck. And I thought, this guy is, like, he can do anything. He sounds great doing whatever it is he's doing. And I want to be that guy. I never had an aspiration to be the big network star. I wanted to be the guy who was, like, near the top in town. Now, I don't know that anybody can be that anymore because the landscape's just changed too much. But Jack Brickhouse and Jack Buck were my idols, the ones that I kind of wanted to be growing up.
You know, back in, you mentioned going to J school and all that. Back then, one of the things they really stressed was objectivity. Now, you guys work for the teams. You were the connection of fan to team. Is it as important to be completely objective now as you might have been made to believe it was back then, do you think?
Well, I think it's important to define what you mean by completely objective. I don't think any of us is expected to be objective in these jobs. I know Chuck and I have both done a lot of network stuff, and it's just a different role.
And you find your approach to those jobs different than...
Subtly. I've done Missouri and the Cotton Bowl 3 times, and I can't be for them. So you have to make a conscious effort to realize that you're speaking to people in Portland, Oregon, and Portland, Maine. You have to play it down the middle. But in the jobs that we do, when people turn on the fan to listen to Eric do a Ranger game, they don't care about the Blue Jays, they care about the Rangers. And so they expect Eric to be, and Matt and Jared, they expect them to be reporting on how the Rangers are doing, and that's true of all of us. So when I worked the first 8 years I was in this job with the great Vern Lundquist, still a dear, dear friend, Vern used to say that our job was to do the Cowboys, was to do the games objectively from the Cowboys' point of view.
Yeah.
And I just think that's exactly what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You can't, I have learned through the years, you can't lie to the audience. They'll know. They know better. And on the other hand, our job is partly to keep people listening. Every game's not a good game. Every game's not watchable. Every game's not enjoyable. So we have to figure out a way to still give people a reason to listen. And if the team is particularly stinky that day, and you take a club and beat the audience about the head and ears with how stinky they are that day, why would you listen to that? So you can honestly say they're not good. Eric's absolutely brilliant, and I learned so much in the 3 years that I worked with him about being able to say, yeah, that wasn't good. That just was not any good at all. And we move on, and nobody thinks you're being critical, and you can't be personal about it. But you have to be honest. But I don't think it's our job to be completely objective. I don't think that's what the audience wants.
Yeah.
As a fan, and that's all I am now, I do not want objectivity. I don't want it at all. I mean, here's what I want. I want somebody that gives my team the benefit of the doubt. When it's the other team, I want them to rip their head off. Every once in a while, I want you or Eric or somebody to take up for the team where I can yell at the radio and go, damn it, Brad, quit having that. I want that. And then when they do something wrong, I want you to rip them. And we get that with all you guys.
Yeah, I think we all try to do that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I love it. it is the greatest line ever in objective broadcast from
Yeah.
your team's point of view. Because, look, in the NBA, the Mavericks' opponents are not the Washington Generals. Okay, Red Klotz is not on the floor. Okay, they're great players, and they can do incredible things. And look, for instance, look, when Luka came back to Dallas to play that first game, and he goes off, he goes for 16 in the first quarter. He winds up with 45, and I know I've done this a lot with Steph Curry. You're watching and you're announcing in wonderment. And so your voice may naturally go up because you're seeing things that you don't normally see. And some fans might interpret that as somehow you are less than for, that I'm less than for the Mavericks. And I'm just really for the game. I'm for basketball. I love watching great basketball, and whoever is playing it, I hope my team is playing it more. But I'm never not going to acknowledge when I see it, from the other side.
But that's one thing about being with the same team and you, Chuck, is the fact that everybody knows your personality. They know you, and I think they'll cut you slack on that. I would never even, I listened to that game, and I never even thought that you were, pro Luka in that game. I just thought you were Chuck Cooperstein, just being excited and watching a superstar basketball player.
And make no mistake here, I love Luka. I will love watching Luka play. I will always love watching Luka play. But I've seen games of his where he's had 9 turnovers and he's thrown it away like nobody's business, and you have to call that. It's just part of the deal. But at the same time, we are the lead marketers in many ways for our teams, and so we are out front, and we want you to stay with us for as long as you can possibly stay with us, and hopefully, we are making it entertaining enough that you are thinking of some point, what? I think I'd like to buy a couple of tickets. I'd like to come and watch us play.
I think you guys are all great at making sure that happens too. All of you.
I think what's really interesting is, I'm listening to Grego and say, as a fan, what I want, and what I learned a long time ago in broadcasting, both as a fan, a consumer, and as a play-by-play broadcaster, is that everybody kind of wants something different, right? Because we all want what we want. And it's impossible. And it's a mathematical impossibility to give everybody what they want if it's different things. Now, I think there's commonalities, and I think that what Brad and Coop have both said, I share so much of that. But I think you also have to realize that you cannot hit everybody at 100% of what they would want to hear, because that just doesn't exist. So I think what we all fall back onto is, at least I do, I call the games the way I would want to hear them if I was a fan.
Yeah.
And I think that when it comes to objectivity, it's such a talking point because it's such a polarizing thing. There are some people that want you to sound like the saddest in the world when something bad happens to your team. There are people there is a market for that, 100%. There's others that don't want that at all. So then which one are you going to fall to? You kind of just have to do whichever one you feel is the best way to do your job. Kind of along the lines of what Coop was talking about, how sometimes the game is so exciting that you don't even consciously think about it. You're just ramping up to a level if it's back and forth, end-to-end action. For instance, in hockey, I sometimes have had people ask me, why do you sound so excited when the other team scores? And hockey is a game where you don't know that a goal is going to happen until it happens, right? Let's say there's a 2-on-1 or a breakaway, and the other team has an opportunity, and Jake Onger makes a highlight reel save, one you're going to watch for the next 10 years on the highlight reels. If you're not already at a point where you're excited at the time of that save, it's going to sound crazy.
Yeah.
If you sound like you're bummed that a 2-on-1 or a breakaway is coming, and then a 10-bell save happens, and all of a sudden you're animated, it's going to sound awkward. That's clunky.
But what's it like on the end of the fire wagon hockey that we're seeing, and it's Connor McDavid doing what Connor McDavid does. And I know you had this during the series.
Yes,
unfortunately. Unfortunately, but I mean, you have to rise to the moment. You have to thrill to the moment. You can't downplay the moment, because ultimately you are selling your team, but you're selling your sport too.
And so because you don't know what's going to happen, you're kind of riding that energy in the building. I think if you ask all of us what does a play-by-play broadcaster do, we'll probably all give you different answers because everybody's got a different philosophy. But I've always felt that, one of our jobs is to match what's happening in the arena, match what's happening on the playing surface, and provide it to the audience. Right? Whether it's simulcast in my case and they can see it, or it's radio and you can't see it, I feel like that is a central part of what our job is, to convey what actually is happening. And that's where honesty comes into play. You can't lie to your audience and then expect to have any credibility down the road, because they'll be able to call you out on it, whether it's in real time or retroactively. So I think that, that excitement level and that objectivity, Coop is right. I mean, sometimes the game is just fantastic, and it's not going to go the way that you deep down want it to go, and it's not going to go the way that the 18,500 at American Airlines Center want it to go. But in real time, you're not really consciously thinking about that. You're mirroring what's playing out in front of you, and sometimes that's exciting, and sometimes it doesn't end well.
Greg, I'm going to say this. Someday, hopefully after all of us are gone, even young Josh, you are going to be able to turn on your radio or local telecast, and when something happens that enrages you, the person who is describing the game is going to be able to say a word that we don't say on the air now. That's going to happen. And we've all said them in our heads, or as soon as the play is over, you take off the head and say, and that day will come. That day will come when somebody will score a touchdown or a goal or hit a home run, and you get... But that we're not there yet. We're not there.
Well,
if we were, would you say it?
Sometimes.
And sometimes it's the opposing team that makes the news. And Eric, out of all the great home run calls, and you've had too many to remember, I think your best one ever was the one where Bo Jackson. You remember that one?
Off of Nolan.
And off Nolan. Hit it in the black seats, and that was the best home run call ever because it was so quick. You just go. And and he hit it a mile right out to the boondocks. And I think he took a little heat for that.
We had that one. I had the Aaron Judge record-breaking home run, which was an incredible thrill for me because I had seen Roger Maris break Babe Ruth's record, and then I had a chance to call Aaron Judge breaking Maris's record. But, I had this conversation with Tom Hicks when he owned the team after a year or two of him owning the team, and he was not my biggest fan. And so I became aware of that, so I asked if I could have lunch with him one day, and we sat down, and he said, my problem is when I'm in the car, for example, and I'm on the phone, and the game's on, and somebody hits a run-scoring double, I can't really tell whether it's the Rangers doing it or the other team doing it when he's not really listening because of the level of excitement involved. And I tried to explain to him, and it's always for baseball announcers, what would Vin do? What would Vin Scully do? And his level of excitement was always about the same. The happiness in his voice might be a little bit different. And I tried to explain that to Tom, and he was pretty good. He wanted me to get much more excited when the Rangers did something. I said, well, that's not really my deal. I don't go crazy unless it's the end of the game. It's the last play. And so he said, well, why don't you just ramp it up a little bit? And so I tried to ramp it up a little bit. I mean, he's signing my checks. I tried to ramp it up a little bit. But the bigger challenge for me is when the team totally sucks, which we did a lot of the time when he owned the club. And Chuck and I both learned this from the Mets announcers. They are the voice of hope. And we are there to portray our players in the most positive light that is credible. The Mets announcers took that a little bit too far. I thought growing up that Choo Choo Coleman was the best defensive catcher in the National League because he couldn't hit at all. And the announcers were constantly emphasizing how good he was defensively, how good he was at blocking low pitches. Well, he had a lot of practice. And we didn't realize that. But I really thought that those guys were all-stars. I thought that, I thought there couldn't possibly be a better first baseman than Ed Kranepool. And he was okay. He was basically an totally average player.
Hey, he gave me an autograph when he played for the Tidewater Tide.
All right.
So, good pinch hitter, though. Wound up being a really good pinch hitter.
18 years or whatever it is he played. I thought he was the greatest. Every year I was outraged when he wasn't on the All-Star team. And that's kind of what our job is. And again, you can't lie to people. You can't exaggerate too much. And when the team is bad, you have to be the voice of hope. You have to emphasize whatever the positives are, whatever the future is. And to me, that's the biggest challenge of the job in terms of trying to stay somewhat objective, or at least honest, but still letting the fans know that, it might not be happening today or next week, but good things are going to happen.
Because at the very end, you've got to give the final score, no matter what.
Yeah. Speaking of Bo Jackson, save me like 3 minutes when we're at the end, because I got something for the table.
Okay. Chuck, as a guy who has had to deal with something like this as far as giving the fans hope goes, in the most recent time, did you think a lot about how you were going to handle it on the air when Luka got traded?
I knew.
Let me just say one thing. Yeah. I think this is the biggest single sports catastrophe that we have ever had here in our Fairburg.
It's certainly the most controversial, for sure. Obviously, you go on. Especially when you open a game, you're thinking about what you're going to say. And Brian Damaris, who does the games with me, we talked about how do we want to handle this. I had I do a pregame segment on my own, about 4 minutes, and at that time in Cleveland that afternoon, just sort of gave my own. Here's where my feelings are, but ultimately I knew that once the game started, it was not going to be a referendum on the trade. We can't do that, especially on radio.
Right.
I mean, if you're on TV, you can do a talk show for 48 minutes. I mean, we can't do that. But I mean, I pretty much knew, what I was going to say, how I was going to say it, and with the acknowledgement of that. Hey, I'm sad, and I said this. I'm sad that Luka Doncic is not here, but the Mavericks are going to go on, and they are going to play, and they're going to try to find ways to win. And that's what we're here to describe. And that's pretty much how I handled it. I had a lot of time to think about it because when I first heard about the trade at 12:10 Eastern time on February the 2nd, I didn't go to sleep. So there was a lot going through my head then.
Did you have anybody at that late hour of the day to bounce it all off of?
Everybody. I mean, I was on the phone with my wife, Karen, and she had been out doing some stuff, and we were just catching up, and my phone starts buzzing, and I'm trying to play the good husband and ignore the phone, and the phone just keeps buzzing and buzzing for about 10 minutes, and finally she's talking. I pull the phone away from my ear, and the alert just comes across that the Mavericks had made the trade, and I said, Karen, I got to go. we just traded Luka for Anthony Davis. I promise I will call you back. 90 minutes later, I did call her back after talking to a whole bunch of people and texting with people, and but I literally didn't hit the pillow until 5 o'clock. And of course, we're playing a day game. It's not even like we're playing a night game. We were playing a 3:30 game.
Right.
So there was really very little time to sleep, and then we had the whole scene at the arena, with the news conference then, and then just like trying to do the game, and a game ultimately that they were probably going to lose anyway because we all knew they were going to be sitting a bunch of people. Well, they wound up sitting a bunch more people, and on top of that, and so you had the most zombie-like NBA team of all time going out there playing against a 64-win team, and they were down by as many as 50 in that game and wound up, I think, losing by 41. It was quite an extraordinary day. I mean, it really was. But you kind of have to know what you're going to say. I mean, I couldn't take the attitude like, I'm above all this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in it. I mean, I'm right in the middle of it. I'll tell you how I feel, and listen. And as a basketball fan, I was hurt, very much hurt by the fact that I feel cheated. That, like I was saying earlier, I've always had that guy.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't have that guy. I mean, I have Kyrie, and he's great. And of course, Kyrie then got hurt a month later. But the guy who was, you're one of one. I've always had that guy. Well, now I don't have that guy. Well, how am I going to feel, right? And so you let people know that. But at the same time, once the ball goes up, you can't fixate on that.
Yeah.
Weird stories happen to athletes, and that always puts you play-by-play guys in a really bad situation, like with the Michael Irvin situation. And back when the Rangers had some problems with that.
Josh Hamilton.
Exactly.
A couple of times we had the wash situation.
And the first person they run to is the voice of the team. And you guys don't want to get in that nonsense.
Right. Frank Messer once explained to me when he was doing the Yankee games during the Bronx Zoo days, where Reggie and Billy Martin were, threatening to have fights in the dugout and that kind of stuff.
Well, not threatening, they did.
And I said, how do you handle that? He says, I just do the game. He said, they pay me to do the game. There's other guys who do talk shows. There's other guys who do commentaries. I get paid to do the game. And
it was funny. I was on the ticket yesterday. They had the audio of Frank and Phil Rizzuto when Reggie and Billy Martin were going at each other in Boston.
Oh, really?
And they're talking about how Dick Hauser and Bobby Cox, and I mean, I totally forgotten they were on that staff. I mean, what a staff that was. And, and they're trying to pull Reggie and Billy away from each other. It's like, wow. I mean, that was incredible. But again, he's describing what he's seeing. He's reporting. I mean, ultimately, and I know, we talk about objectivity and whatnot.
Well, Eric did that with the Frankie Francisco.
Frank Francisco in the chair.
Remember that? Throwing the chair. I remember that.
And I was horrified. I was really mortified that, that our guys were involved in that and our guys were doing that. But I basically had to bite my tongue. This is what I'm seeing.
But you're reporting. You're reporting what you see. That's our first and foremost job is to report what we see because you out there can't see it.
And there's Eric Nadel. Instead of saying Frankie Francisco bringing a curve, he's bringing a folding chair.
You're talking about a couple different things, right? Because there could be things that happen outside of the arena, and then how do you package those into a sports broadcast? And look, that's can be delicate, and it certainly is different depending on the case. But a piece of advice I got kind of along the lines of what we were just talking about that I've always followed and think is true is if something happens in the arena within view of everybody, right? If you can see it, if you can see it from the 300 level, you cannot gloss over it. You're not doing your job if it's noteworthy, right? If it's in the arena. If it's outside of the arena, and that means maybe you're going down the tunnel, you're going down into the clubhouse, and you hear about something, that's a little different, and that's a little bit more specific to that case. And I don't think there's a catch-all where it has to be done this way. But I think we all work in a way where if it happens in plain sight and it's noteworthy, then you're not doing your job if you don't at least mention it and convey again to the audience what most of the world has already seen. If you're the only guy on the planet who doesn't talk about it and you're the guy whose job it is to tell the audience at home what they're missing and what they're not seeing, then then again, we go back to credibility. You probably lose some.
And there's no margin for error because everything is recorded.
Yeah, well, that's how
Everything.
the world is different now.
You can't say, "Well, I didn't say that." Oh, really?
Yeah. One of the best examples I've ever lived through to what Eric's talking about, that Frank Messer, the advice that he gave him. 1987, strike year, replacement games. Nobody wants replacement games. Except maybe Tex. Tex Sham wanted their, which by the way was
and
a problem.
Jackie Davidson wanted it
yeah,
too.
But I mean that was a problem. But so I was working with Dale Hansen at the time, and we now we're going to do these games, and I guess we had a little bit of that in '95.
We had a month of it.
Yeah, but
Jackie Davidson.
So when it happened in '87, and now that we're going to get these replacement players. And so Dale and I sat down and said, how are we going to handle this? And my answer was exactly what Frank Messer told you. What's our job? Our job's to do the game. There's talk shows on all over the place now, not like when I started, and there was two.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a talk show now, and there's plenty of opportunity for people to say what they think about the replacement players and blah, blah, blah. Our job's to do the game. So we're not going to try to lie to people and say, this is, Kevin Sweeney is Danny White. We're not going to try to say that, but we're just going to say what we see. This is the game. They're going to count in the standings, so we're just going to do the game.
Yeah, we had those games in the spring of 1995. Brad got to call our only over-the-fence home run, a guy named Joe Perez.
Yes,
I'll never forget it, in Fort Myers, and the level of excitement was phenomenal. We played 8 or 10 games, and nobody had hit a home run. And finally, this guy, Joe Perez, hit a home run. The barista from Santa Monica, California. Joe Perez has gone. But it was great. We're doing the games. We didn't know how long it was going to last.
Right.
For now, those are the Texas Rangers. Like it or not.
You said over the fence. How many inside the park home runs were there?
Well, there were some. There might have been a little league home run or two mixed in there.
So what kind of access do you guys get these days to coaches and players? Because over time, this is something that's changed a good bit too. What's it like for you?
It's not as much access because the new stadiums have so many places for the players to be other than at their locker. They've got lounges, they've got video rooms, they've got batting cages, they've got weight rooms, they've got hot tubs, they've got saunas, they've got pools, they've got ice plunges. All of that stuff is in the ballpark. So during the hour that we have when we can be in the clubhouse, which is usually like from 3 to 4 approximately, before a 7 o'clock Ranger game, there aren't many guys at their locker. There are guys passing through from time to time who you might be able to grab and ask a question or two. But it's not nearly the access that we used to have where everybody was just sitting around at their locker because there was no place else to go in there. And so it's different. It's a little bit harder to get to the players now.
Very, especially since COVID. I mean, COVID changed everything. And, I know just the access. I have access to Jason Kidd alone because I get 5 minutes with him, to do a pregame interview with him. And then, sometimes he'll say, hey, don't leave just yet. Let's talk about some things. But, around the players, we're separated from them on the plane. They're in the front of the plane. We're in the back of the plane. You get to the hotel, everybody's picking up their keys, right, and just going off. I mean, my favorite Dirk story of all was my first year with the team. Played a game in L.A. Dirk hits a shot. We win the game. We're going up to San Francisco. We're playing the next night, waiting for the equipment truck to come and unload our luggage and bags, and the iguanas would hang around and help the trainers and get it all off the truck, and so we're unloading it and walking back, and who do I see unloading bags and slinging bags at 1:45 in the morning? it's Dirk. he's slinging backs. I'm thinking, yeah, Kobe's doing this, LeBron's doing this, but it just made him a regular guy. But we could see guys more as real people. But today it's almost like something out of Dazed and Confused, where we get older, but they never do, and so the commonality that we might have had 20 years ago when I started doesn't really exist. We're not in the same places they are. We never see them at dinner, in restaurants around town the way we might have otherwise. A lot of stuff is funneled through public relations. If you want to talk to somebody on the side, you just can't necessarily walk up to someone that, they want to be around you and hear what you have to say, so just to make sure that state secrets aren't being told. It's different. It's a little frustrating, but at the same time, for me, it's still about the game. As much as I'd like to know, and not that I want to be friends with them or anything like that, or be able to go to dinner with them. The game still is the thing that matters the most. And it really doesn't, the access or lack of such doesn't really affect how I do the game. Now, having access to the coaching staff, I think, is something that I do want to have. And I'm fortunate that I have that with Jason and even with a couple of the new coaches that are coming in on his staff this year, guys that I've known for a long time in other places. So, from that standpoint, it might even be better than, where I've been for the last few years.
You don't know the assistant coaches. You don't know the team.
Now, I asked this question with Brad Sham in mind because I'm sure you remember the days of Valley Ranch. That place was wide open.
Well, I remember the days before Valley Ranch. When I started doing this job in 1976, Tex Schramm and Tom Landry's phone numbers were in the phone book, and Tex passed out to beat writers a piece of paper with all the home phone numbers of the players.
I got one of those in 1989.
So there you go. So that was still going on. I mean, it's just completely different. Eric and I have been around longer, so we have more basis for comparison. And there's nothing today like it was then, including access to the coaches. And I agree that the assistant coaches especially, that's where you find stuff out. For me, that's one of the biggest reasons to go to training camp and never miss a practice. Guys remember who they see every day when they come back, and there's a flood of faces and they don't know who anybody is, but they may not know your name, but they remember they saw you and you were there, and it's why you go out of your way, I think, to try to the best you can with the limited time that's available to get to know players and coaches as people, so that you're not they don't think you're viewing them just as a commodity. So you have to be authentic about it. It's not easy, and they do make it much more difficult. But I would also say this, it may be true of all four of us, but I'd be surprised if it wasn't especially true for Eric and me because of how long we've been doing this. If there's someone that I really want to ask a question or talk to, I may have to go to PR to do it. But I can go up to somebody and say, I need 2 minutes with that guy. It's not an interview. I just want him off to the side. I just need to ask him one thing, and I'll get that.
Yeah.
And after 47 years, I would hope I would get that.
Eric, do you get it, though, like during batting practice? Like, can you go on the field? Can you get better access and information? Now, I think batting practice is something that separates baseball from pretty much any other sport, at least as far as...
You can hang around the cage and you can talk to guys. There are some guys who are kind of in a mindset in batting practice when it's not really a good time to talk to them. They're working when they're there. And that's changed over the years, too. Guys didn't used to take batting practice seriously the way they do now. It used to be you hung around the cage, you could just kind of shoot the bull with anybody. It's not like that now. There are some guys you can, some guys who you can't. But that still is one of the better ways, to get guys to talk to you one-on-one.
What's it like in hockey, Josh?
The hockey players are pretty approachable. And I mean, it's like any other walk of life where some guys are going to want to talk more than others. I don't have the resume in terms of numbers of years to compare the way these guys do. So it's probably a little different from my standpoint, but I think one thing for me that I've always enjoyed is if there's a scrum, because the way hockey works is the room opens up after practice, or the room opens up morning skate the day of the game, and then media scrums just start to develop and they go all to one place. I always want to be really respectful of the guys because they have their routines, right? They live all over the Metroplex. If it's a game day, they want to get out, they want to get their lunch, they want to get a nap in, come back to the arena. You don't have a ton of time. If you have something that isn't really time sensitive, I'll save it for a practice day where you're not infringing on their game day routine. Mm-hmm. But what I always like to do is if I want to chat with somebody about anything in particular, then I'd rather do it not as part of the scrum. If it's a question that is there for the masses, then you can ask that. If it's a question that I had about something maybe a little more subtle, then I don't need to inject that into a 10-person conversation. When they're alone and they're not in a rush and the scrum is focused on somebody on the other side of the room, I'll walk over and just have a short conversation with them. And I think, the longer you're there, to Brad's point, the more you separate yourself from people who come and go. And then I think the more you realize that you're not just trying to talk to somebody and keep them there for a half an hour to talk about anything unless they want to, and then you can. I think they realize, and you have that relationship where, you're not this big burden on them. And at the same time, you're respectful of getting what you need. And then some guys are just naturally a little bit more social than others. Some guys want to talk about, the Sunday major during the Masters, and they want to talk to you because they're golf fans. And the next thing you know, you're in a 10-minute conversation, or they're fans of an NFL team, and something crazy happened over the weekend, Sunday Night Football, and now it's Monday at practice, and you're talking just the way two people would. Mm-hmm. So everybody's different. Every situation's different, but I always try and pick my spots, because sometimes you want something when 18 other people want it, and you got to get it if that's something you need for that night's game. And sometimes you don't, and as long as you're a little bit more, understanding of their situation, I think that goes a long way in helping that relationship.
Do you guys consider yourself media?
That's a great question.
I think I've got one foot in the fire and one foot in the ice. I mean, yes, of course, but I'm not media like everybody else who's only around the team. Less is. I'm not. I mean, I'm just being honest. I just think I'm not media the same way everybody else is media. But sure, I'm media.
Yeah, Chuck, you didn't jump in there. I figured you'd jump in on that question.
Brad beat me to the punch. No, I think we are media. I think we are, because I do think that we are on that level of trying to tell the truth as we see it. So from that standpoint, we are, but we are. It's not pure media, because we're not looking to break stories. We're not Sham or Jeff Passan or any of these people who are just that all they're doing is living on their phone and trying to figure out where the next trade's coming from, or who's getting cut.
But the question is, if you're not media, what are you?
Well, we're media. We're marketers. We're
PR staff.
I mean, yes. I mean, I don't. You think?
I don't know a whole lot of different hats.
Yeah, I don't know that we're necessarily PR, because I think that like when you get a release from the public relations department, there's only the good.
Yeah.
If something happens during the game that this person has not done or has not done well, again, not in a personal way, but just if he shoots 3 for 17, he's 3 for 17, you got to say it. So is that public relations? I don't know if that's. I mean, that's media. I mean, that's media.
You kind of have to spin.
Well, keep in mind though, these guys never, ever ingest our work product. They can't.
No.
Rangers can't hear Eric. Now, they might have a better chance of hearing Eric if they go up in the clubhouse and the radio is piped in there. But they don't know. I had one of the greatest lessons of my life back in the early 80s. Charlie Waters didn't like something that I said describing a play that I thought he had blown, and I was wrong. And it was a Monday night game, and he's on the field. He did not know what I said. But by Thursday, when I saw him at practice, he was in my face and yelling at me and telling me how I was. And the first thing I thought was, how the hell do you know what I said? So it got through, and I know now that it was like, someone heard it and told Rosie, and it just filtered on down that way. But it was a great lesson. That's why it's important that they know who you are.
Yeah.
And they know that we are media because when the media is there, we're there. But they also know that we're not just regular media because we're doing a different job. And they can't go online and read us like they do.
I like your description. One foot on the ice, 1 foot in the fire.
I think that's a great way. I think it's a good and difficult question. And look, you got 4 people up here who do this for a living. You're not even going to get one consensus answer. But I think it depends who's asking and who's looking, because some people would consider you media and some people wouldn't, and then some of us would consider it and some wouldn't. But if to follow up on that question, if you're not media, what are you? It is a really specific subset. And it really is a unique role to have, especially as sports media has expanded to what it currently is present day.
I'll say, too, at least as far as I know for the Mavericks, the coaching staff has always taken our radio feed to put on their game tape. So they know, how much time was left, when this happened, score and whatever.
Just because they're fans of yours.
Well, no. Rick Carlisle let me know in no uncertain terms when I was good and when I was not so good. But I know they do that, and I don't know if that's true in the other sports. But I mean, so they will know, what's been said and how you've said it.
Yeah, but our point of view might be a little different from other, quote, reporters, but we are reporters. When we're doing a game 100%. Broadcast, we are reporters, and in that sense, we have to be considered media.
Oh, like I said, if you're not, what are you?
Yeah.
I've always considered play-by-play guys part of the media. Says so right on the badge.
One thing it's your job to do is to transmit gravitas. Those big moments that come down in any game, you are all extraordinary at it. And, it may be just a moment, but, each game's just one of many. Is it just a matter of going with the flow in a game to get across to the masses what's happening or how big this is?
I think pretty much that's it. In the case of baseball with 162 games, it's a little bit different than Brad, who's doing a game a week. And the game itself is much more important than the game that I'm doing, because I'm going to be doing 6 more, in the time that, the Cowboys aren't playing. So it's a whole different deal, the level of excitement I'm going to have at the end of a game compared to the level of excitement Brad's going to have at the end of the game early in the season, for example. But yeah, you want to get excited. And, Pat Hughes, the Cubs announcer, has this great theory on not going too overly crazy, that you always should hold back 10%. And that will keep you from sounding like a complete maniac in the times when you've just completely lost it because it's so exciting. Try and hold back 10%. And I think it's great. It's actually worked really well for me. It's only been a few years since I heard this bit of advice from Pat, but it's been really helpful to me, especially during the World Series times, in 2023 and through that whole playoff run.
Is there an app you can buy for that? When you hit the 90.
Sometimes it's easier said than done, many years ago, I did a college basketball game on TV out in Lubbock. It was Oklahoma and Texas Tech when Eddie Nahara was playing for Oklahoma. And the first play of the game, it's a back tap, and the point guard throws a 60-foot pass on line, on target, guys above the rim, dunks the ball. I go nuts. I go. My producer in my ear says, "Whoa, Cowboy! We got 39 and a half minutes to go here." And I went back to him on the talkback and said, "Look, that might be the very best play we see the entire game." I mean, again, it's about the moment. It's about the play, and as it turned out, it was the best play of the game by far. So, I mean, in theory, yes, but like everything else in life, I mean, there are exceptions to every rule, and you just have to have it within you to know, is this worthy of you really raising your level? I think a 60-footer on time and on target for a dunk, that qualifies.
I do think this, though, and I'll speak only for myself, because I've tried to monitor my own work very, very closely so that I know what I sound like back. I mean, you don't know what you sound like when you're doing it. Mm-hmm. And I've just come to believe that, much like what Eric's talking about, Pat Hughes said, you've got to give yourself somewhere to go, and it might be the best play of the game right away, but you don't know that in the moment. And if I start out at 120 decibels, where am I going in the fourth quarter? I mean, I have to allow myself somewhere to build up to, and then the game. After a while, we've all been doing this long enough that you feel the game. You kind of know. Well, once upon a time, you could tell. I remember when in the NBA, when a 20-point lead was insurmountable. Now you just blow your nose and knock it down. And the NFL has become that. So you don't overreact too soon, and you have to know that I've been here, but I have to. Because if that 60-foot pass happens at the end of the game, it may not be more spectacular than it was at the beginning, but it's more important in the course of that game. And so you've got to be. I have to be able to give myself somewhere to go with. And if I start off, I mean, look, there's things now that I can't do what I never could do physically, but I mean, I have to learn to pace myself.
Yeah.
There's two types of huge plays, and there's the unexpected huge play that you don't know is coming. A pick six that turns into the play of the game. You don't know that that's coming, and that's different than, setting up for 4th and goal with 10 seconds left, and this is the play of the game. You're down by 5. You're either going to win or lose right here. I think all of us have those late game moments when you know that a signature moment has the potential of being there. But then every one of us in our sports can get caught because there's just a massive play. Sometimes a play of the year, sometimes something historic that you haven't seen before that you couldn't have possibly been prepared for because you didn't know when it was going to come. And so I think that it's two different ways of approaching it, and it's, again, matching the moment depending on what it is. You have to be on top of everything that's happening so then you can rise to the occasion of those unexpected huge moments. And at the same time, you also have to be able to build to the moment when it's one of those that you know is coming because the format of the game is presenting this monumental moment in your broadcast.
That's kind of where I want to go with this. I mean, the sudden moments kind of take care of themselves. But what about the milestones? Eric, you've called several. Brad, you're the one that called the all-time leading rusher of all time. How do you guys prepare for what you know is going to be a milestone and it's going to happen on your watch?
Do you think about what you're going to say when it happens?
You think about it. You don't necessarily script it, but you think about it. You don't want to screw it up. That's the first thing. You want to give a good description, especially on radio. You're not commenting at that point. You're describing. And so you want to describe what you see. I had the Nolan Ryan 5,000 strikeout, for example. I had thought about what I was going to do, and I thought once he struck out the hitter for the 5,000 strikeout, the crowd was going to go crazy, so I was going to shut up for a while. But what happened was he struck out Ricky Henderson for the 5,000th, and all of the Rangers left their positions and sprinted to the mound. And I'm on radio, I'm painting a word picture. It would not have been right to just shut up when this amazing thing is happening on the field and people are running from all points of the field to the mound. So even though my original idea was I was going to shut up for 30 seconds or whatever, I had to describe that.
And in the point of your game, because that was back when Mark Holtz did the first 3 innings, you did the middle 3, so you guys didn't know when that 5,000 was going to happen.
I just happened to get lucky.
And so it was in the middle 3 innings, and so did it occur to you that, hey, this is going to be mine now?
That day I was pretty sure it was going to be mine. I think he needed 6 strikeouts, if I remember right. So it was a pretty good chance it was going to happen in the 4th, 5th, or 6th inning.
Was there ever any talk of Mark saying, you know, Eric, I'm going to take that 4th today?
Not at all. He wasn't that way at all.
Really?
And you know, when you talk about gravitas,
because
Ryan,
other play-by-play guys have big-footed.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Milo Hamilton, you know, specifically. But Mark was the greatest at the dramatic moments. And the Rangers weren't playing meaningful games at that time, but still, when you got to the end of the game and the game was on the line, there was nobody better than Holtzy at setting the mood. And I just regret that he never got to do playoff games. You know, he never got to do World Series games, because that would have just been phenomenal. And, you know, he would have won the Ford Frick Award if he'd had the opportunity, if he'd stuck around long enough.
Much too soon.
I find that scripting doesn't work for me, and what Eric's describing is a perfect example of why. You got to let the game come to you.
But, Brad, you had to know on the Emmitt Smith. I mean, you knew that for a long time. What was your thought process?
My thought process, people were asking me in training camp, what are you going to say?
Because it wasn't a real good play.
It was a terrible play. It wasn't. I can use any language here I want. It was a horseshit play. The worst. What I knew, Grego, was that whenever it happened, I was going to somehow make reference to Walter Payton.
Yeah.
Partly because I knew how much Walter Payton meant to Emmitt. The play itself was stumbling, he's bouncing off bodies, he put his hand on the ground, is his knee down, I don't know. And we're counting, believe me, we're counting not yards, we're counting steps. Bob Thomas has been my statistician for like 40 years. And we started, and I said, when the season starts, don't miss a yard. We've got to, when this happens, we got to be on it. And which I didn't have to say to Bob. But we don't know. He needed 6 yards. He's got 4. He got 4.5. He's down. He's him. Parenthetically, the next week, I did the Texas A&M game on Westwood 1, and Ricky Williams broke what was then Tony Dorsett's NCAA career rushing, and he did it with a 40-freaking-yard touchdown.
We're at number 37.
And I believe I said at the end of it, well, that's how you do that. But I knew that whenever it happened, I was going to somehow incorporate Walter Payton into the call. I had no idea that I was going to say
the sweetness,
move over sweetness, make
so
a place
good
for Emmitt. It has to come to you.
Well, what about, and all three of you guys have called a championship. And Chuck, it became apparent that the Mavs were going to win this thing with a few minutes left in the game. What were you thinking then?
Well, I I did say with a minute to go and Dirk hit that layup to put them up 11, they're going to win the championship. They're not going to blow an 11-point lead in the last minute. It's not going to happen. But, again, like Brad said, you think about the moment, but you don't script the moment. And so my last moment when they dribbled out the clock and the game is over is, what's the hardest thing in the world to do? And it's climb Mount Everest. And I was thinking of Edmund Hillary and thinking that, here the Mavericks have scaled the NBA playoff mountain and have planted their flag like Edmund Hillary did in 1954. And that was my thought process.
That's why he's the higher authority. I never once thought of Edmund Hillary.
What about you?
But it's just what's the hardest thing to do. And that's where it came from.
What were you, Eric? What were the bigger odds? A kid from Brooklyn being one of the, 32 play-by-play guys, or calling a World Series championship after 40 years with the Rangers?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, that day, the day of the 5th game, we were very confident the Rangers were going to win, even though, they had blown it in 2011 with the 3-2 lead, but 3-1. And we had Evaldi pitching that night, and Jared and Matt and I, we talked during the day. We all felt really confident the Rangers were winning that night. And I'm just thinking, I can't believe this. This is like surreal, I'm at work walking around in a dream world. And
did you have any thought of walking around old Arlington Stadium at that time?
I thought about all that stuff.
And
all of the suffering we did, all the bad baseball,
Port Charlotte,
the playoff series against the Yankees where they couldn't win a game. They lost 9 straight games to the Yankees in the playoffs over 3 years. All of that stuff came back to me, and it really was like I was in a dream. And I wrote down on a little piece of note paper in the Arizona Biltmore, "You're not dreaming." And I stuck it in my wallet. And then when Marcus Semien hit the home run in the top of the 9th inning, basically to clinch that game, I pulled that thing out of my wallet and I put it down on the table on my scorebook so that when I called the final out, no matter what it was I was saying, at some point I would say, "Ranger fans, you're not dreaming."
Do you still have that?
What they call that?
We auctioned it off. We auctioned it off along with my headset from that game. We auctioned off that piece of note paper. And so, no, I don't have it anymore. Money went to a charity, and it went for a good cause.
Better cause. Better cause, for sure.
Here's something I'd like to know. I mean, we know that there's a lot of travel involved in you guys' your business. How the heck do you guys pack? I mean, Brad, you get out easy. Because you fly out on a Saturday, do a game on a Sunday, and you're back Sunday night in your own bed.
Yeah, you don't have to take a lot of stuff.
But Eric, you and Chuck, I mean, you got to pack for a 10, and it's got to be tough early in the year.
Well, ask him how he packed last year for the last. Where was the last regular season series?
Oh, in 2023 was in Seattle.
I meant 23.
And we were going to go to the postseason, not knowing where we were going, not knowing for how long we were going, not knowing if they were going to win the division and be able to go home, or not win the division, be a wild card team and start out on the road. And we wound up going to Tampa and going to Baltimore and running out of underwear. and this is the difference between Matt Hicks and me. He did laundry in the hotel. I'm not wasting time doing laundry in a hotel. I went to the Under Armour store, which is 1 block from the hotel, and I bought underwear to get me through the rest of that series. But it is really tough. Early in our season, you go on a trip where you might be in cold weather in Chicago and warm weather in Tampa. The same sort of thing. And we have these big suitcases, and you just throw everything in there and hope that you got enough stuff by the end of the trip. 1-week trips really aren't that hard. Once they add that 3rd city, and it goes from 7 days to 10 days, it's like it just went to 3 weeks. That one extra city just knocks it off, and I'm lucky enough now, I get to make my own schedule. I do 100 games. I do not do 3-city trips anymore. I will fly into the 3rd city, and that's generally how I approach those. And then it's great because now I've just got a carry-on bag, for 3 days. And the 3-city trips now, they're too much for me. I can't handle them. But I love the traveling, though. It's still really fun.
Is there anything you always forget that you need on the road?
Not one thing. You just forget something new every single trip. There's not one thing you always forget.
A man after my own heart right here.
You just get to whatever city you're going, and I guess I'm going to do without that for the next week.
What do you
or you're going to the store.
Or you're going to go to the Under Armour store.
Coop, you
They're going to pick it up.
Coop, you ever get somewhere and go, I'll be damn, I forgot to pack shoes?
Yes.
Shoes. That is shoes.
Shoes. I did that once. Shoes have happened.
I said that as a joke.
In Salt Lake City, that absolutely happened. And there are some places where you would like it to be the case, as opposed to some others. Salt Lake was actually kind of difficult at the time. They were not quite as built up downtown as they are now. It was an effort, but we got it done. I mean, belts without question.
Belts I leave in hotel rooms. I lose 2 or 3 a year.
That's another thing. It's I can't even imagine over the years what I have left behind. It's not what you haven't taken with you. It's what you don't come back with. It'd be just a museum filled with stuff that I've left in God knows what city over the years.
Yeah, I travel with my pillow, and I lose it at some point every season. I leave it in a hotel room, and it's just a question of whether you're going to bother the hotel to send it to you, or just go out and buy another one.
And what do you do?
I normally go out and buy another one. I've got a mouthpiece that I wear for sleep apnea. I don't use the CPAP machine. I just use a mouthpiece. I left that in a hotel this year. That one I called and had them send it to me because it cost $800. The pillow, I get another one for $30.
There's no $800 pillows out there.
No, that's
How
right.
have the charter flights changed?
Oh, gosh almighty.
Brad, early in the 90s, I mean, I was on all those charters.
Well, so when I started, we flew Braniff. This will really show you how long I've been doing this. We flew Braniff. The coaching staff, which was not 25 people at the time, there was like 8 of them.
7 or 8?
Yeah. And so management and Mrs. Management flew Murkison, Shram, Brandt. They were in first class. Tom and Alicia Landry. The assistant coaches' wives did not go with them. Some of the media was in first class. And
Blackie and who?
I mean, there were newspaper writers. There were a number of them who would be up there. You could smoke. And I was a pipe smoker. And Lee Martin, remember Lee Martin?
Yeah.
Lee he was at Channel 5 for a while. He did a Texas TV show, and he was a pipe smoker. And Lee Martin used to sit right behind Alicia Landry and smoke his pipe on the plane. Nobody thought anything about it, except Alicia. Alicia wasn't crazy about it. But you could do that. And through the years, you could get up and move around pretty easily on the plane and go back and talk to people, talk to players. And I used to do that regularly. And, what Chuck was talking before about the relative relationship that we have at various stages to the players. When Eric and I started doing what we're doing, we were the same ages as the players. It was we could be brothers. And then by the time we got into the 90s, I was like an older brother, maybe an uncle, and so now I'd be like their grandfather, and that's one reason you're just not going to get as close to them. Yeah. But you don't move around on the airplane anymore. I don't remember the last time I got up and walked back to talk to. Plus, another thing is coaches in the NFL, coaches will divide up the airplane differently. Now, if there are, in the regular season when the roster gets cut down, some of the veterans with the most tenure will fly first class. And then most of the players will be in the back, the media and staff. And the staff now there's like 10 equipment guys, and there's literally 6 or 8 social media department people from the team. So the travel is just completely different.
Are the planes still rowdy after?
No, and that's another thing that I think changed. I think that Grego changed when. I think that changed with free agency. You used to tell by the atmosphere on the airplane whether they won or lost. And you cannot tell that anymore.
I remember one time I went to a bathroom in the back, and if you're a media guy, you did not want to have to go to the bathroom, especially after a Cowboy win. Went back there in the bathroom, trying to get out the door, couldn't open it up. Kevin Gogan and Nate. They said, "No, you can't come out yet. You hadn't been in there long."
Wait.
So I got to stay in the bathroom for about 30 minutes.
I'm going to say 78, maybe a Super Bowl year. I think could have been 77, but it might have been 78. And they beat the Rams in a playoff game on the road. And I had said on that talk show that I was doing, I'd gone on Friday night, talked about objectivity. I'd pick the Rams. I said, I don't want the Rams to win, but I'm looking at the rosters. I think the Rams are going to win by 3. Before the before the plane took off, they won the game, and they won it in a rout, like a shutout, 35-0 or something. And I was told, I can't remember if it was a player or someone in PR said to me, when you get on the plane, go to your seat and stay there. Because Larry Cole and Charlie Waters were going to lock me in the bathroom for the flight back from L.A. And that just doesn't happen. None of that stuff happens.
That's why I always liked it when the Cowboys lost. I mean, it was a great plane ride.
Well, we all knew that about you.
If they won, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
First playoff run, Brad and I would go in the back of the plane, smoke cigars with those guys.
That's right.
And us were back there smoking cigars, and then the following year, published the line of death in between the media and the players. One of our guys, you did not cross that line. The players occasionally would come up through the line of death because they needed to talk to a coach, not necessarily because they needed to talk to us. It was very rare. I think there was only one time ever that a player came through the line of death to talk to me. And that was Ryan Dempster actually did it the year that I won the Ford Frick Award and went to the Hall of Fame. And on the next road trip, Ryan Dempster came through the line of death and came up to me because he wanted to know what the whole thing was like.
Oh, wow. How cool.
Yeah, that is.
And that's the only time that line has been crossed during the era of the line of death, which still exists.
The line of death, which is worse than the Mendoza line.
So who's the enforcer of the line of death now?
There really isn't one now. We just all know.
Everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
We know to do it. Don't go
Is
back
that why
there.
on Stars Flies
Yeah,
too?
I mean, we don't have as big of a traveling party. I mean, certainly not as what it sounds like Brad is laying out. But I mean, it's pretty much split now. Honestly, there's about 50 people, and it's half players and then half everyone else, right? And you're not even getting to 25 total players, but you've got 20 players, maybe 21, depending on what the roster, if you have injured guys with you. And then everybody kind of knows where they go, and it is pretty structured. You also have these chance meetings. You bump into guys because you happen to both be going to the same part of the plane at the same time. And then that goes back to what I was talking about earlier within a room where it's not one of those head down, don't make eye contact. If you're near someone and chatting about whatever, I'm at the age now where I've got 2 small kids. And so like last year and years past, some of my kids will play hockey with some of the players' kids, and I'm older than all of them. But if I'm seeing them at the rink and we're talking about whatever, the next thing you know, we're talking about that on the plane. It's just an extension of that. Not every conversation has to be about the power play or the penalty kill or the third line that night.
Sure.
So I mean, you're not going back and sitting next to them and chatting for 90 minutes, wheels up to wheels down. It's nothing like that at all. If you happen to be in the same place at the same time. It's funny because I'm listening to a lot of these stories and I was in the minors for a long time before I got to Dallas. I did play-by-play in the minors, and so you're on buses, and it's right out of Bull Durham and Slapshot and things like that. I remember my first year in the minors, I called one of my good friends. I was about 2 months into my first season, and I said, I always thought the movie Slapshot was a comedy. It turns out it's a documentary. It's unbelievable how authentic and similar all of this is. And so we would take...
That's the line of the podcast right there.
We would take 21-day trips in the minors sometimes, and you're thinking about how you pack. And when I was in Alaska, that would happen. And so it's funny because I'm listening to these stories and the differences between pre-COVID and post-COVID and things in the 80s that I couldn't even imagine because I wasn't I was 0 then.
Yeah.
It was
just rub it in. Okay.
But it's amazing. It's amazing to think about the evolution of what this has all become, both for the sports and the teams and what sports has become and media has become and travel has become, but also for where to save the $9 lunch per diem that they had to pay, the bus would leave at 2:05 instead of 2 per guy, and so it's just a pretty funny exercise to think about all of this.
You bring up into it, and to a man, every one of you said, because you get to go to the game. You get to go to the games for free, but you get to eat for free. Who has the best media chat?
Although you may, I don't know what it's like for the Red Wings. The Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. I mean, literally anything you could possibly want. I mean, they've got Little Caesars pizza, but I mean, they have like 3 entrees, a salad bar, a pasta bar, a cookie bar, an ice cream machine. I mean, it's just nothing compares to it. Nothing. And it's actually really good quality, too. I mean, not just the amount, but the food. Your choices are just extraordinary.
Brad, are the Eagles still pretty good? They used to be the worst.
The Eagles were the worst when I was living there.
Yeah,
in the 90s.
But when they moved to the Link, they got really good.
They're not the worst. Seattle is unusually good. And we don't go there very often, but Seattle's got exotic things that other places don't have. I'll tell you the truth.
Baltimore.
Yeah, but we don't go to Baltimore very often.
The crab cakes at halftime in Baltimore.
At the Oriole games, the crab cakes I looked forward to those. I would tell you.
Yeah, they don't have them anymore.
There you go.
Because a lot of fans don't know.
Let me tell you what, AT&T Stadium does it as well as anybody. The Cowboys are involved with the Yankees and Legends. The company that caters a lot of these places, they do it as well as anybody.
And the Yankees are the best in baseball.
I mean, they just don't realize.
Yankees do?
Yankees are the best.
There we go.
That surprises me, kind of.
Why?
Because usually those New York teams, they just.
But they're in business.
Mets are very good, too.
Throw out some burgers and some hot dogs.
Yeah, you're thinking because they're going to be there anyway.
Exactly.
So,
But a lot of people don't realize that the media eat. I've never understood why. But the media eats free.
Well, but now that has started to change. That has started to change.
That was changing. That changed back when 30. I really hate saying this. It's been 30 years since Eric and I worked together, but that wasn't the case then. You paid $2 or $3 to go through the line.
I will tell you now. In the NBA, I mean, there are New York, Charlotte, Milwaukee. Clippers, not the Clippers, Philadelphia, Miami. They don't even Cleveland. They don't even serve you a meal. They just give you Toronto. They just give you a voucher
at the Garden,
and,
right?
And go to the stands and fend for yourself.
Oh wow!
Wow!
You got to stand in line and get a hot dog,
which is funny, because for us sometimes the media meal doesn't open up until maybe 90 minutes before tip-off or face-off,
and that's not working for us.
So then I'm already in the booth by then. We're going through pre-production and doing everything like that because again, this kind of goes back to the question of are we media or not? We're not, according to the people that schedule the media plans, because they can go eat and then even like in Dallas in the first period, the media room is still open because you've got people who are coming in like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours before face-off all the way through the first period. But for us specifically, you got to get to where you're going, and sometimes it means you're just finding a different spot to eat at a different time of the day.
I don't know of anybody in the NFL that charges, but I will say this: when AT&T Stadium opened, the main press box where the spread is, where the food is at one end of the field, and we're 120 yards in the other direction. And after the first preseason game or two, everything is great about our booth except where it's located. But it's a huge suite. We've got a refrigerator and a bathroom, which the older you get, the more important that is.
That matters.
And I wanted a little more water in the suite. And some people were drinking soft drinks. So I called the catering people, and I got the lady who she's now in L.A., but she was running it then. And I said, well, she said, was there anything else you would like? And I said, if I could get a veggie tray, I would really like that, like at halftime or pregame, and especially at halftime. And I don't know where it started, but I get Babe Laufenberg cookies at halftime everywhere we go. I said, bring that. So she said, now I understand that you and Mr. Aikman like sushi, is that right? And I said, well, yes, we do. And so they bring us at halftime, every game, a mini spread of what they've had in the main press box, 2 salads and wings, and Babe wanted chicken tenders. They now bring 6 big boxes of chicken tenders, and they bring us 3 trays of sushi. Halftime, every game. Wow. I'm going to keep that until they fire me.
Well, favorite part of the game is halftime.
But again, when the booth is named for you, there are things that you can get.
And our mutual friend, Tom Turbeville, who was for many years the sports information director at Texas A&M, when the Cowboys were very nice to do that on the occasion of my 40th year, Turbeville wrote me a note, and he said, congratulations on having the booth named after you. Just remember, you still need a credential to get in. And he is correct. He is correct. Are we nearing the end?
Yeah, we are nearing the end.
I'm going to throw this out there for everybody to just kick around and talk about. So I had the opportunity to MC the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame. And Bo Jackson went in the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame. And I'm looking at him walk up the red carpet on the morning of the induction, and he's coming up with the Kilgore Rangerette, and I'm thinking, and I'd had the opportunity to have dinner with him the night before, tremendous guy. I thought, this is arguably one of the 5 greatest athletes ever in the history of the country. So then I started to think, well, if that's true, who are the other 4? So I offer for your consideration, who are the 5 greatest American athletes in history?
Well, Muhammad Ali?
He was number 2 on my list.
Okay.
Jim Thorpe?
He was number 1 on my list.
Michael Jordan?
On the periphery, for me. It took me a minute to realize that I was forgetting Jesse Owens. And so now I've got Jim Thorpe, Ali, Jesse Owens, Bo. Okay. So someone said, Dion. Well, Dion's got to be in the conversation. Then I thought, Wilt Chamberlain was a high jumper. Yeah. Wait, Jim Brown was an All-American lacrosse player. And I finally settled for my own personal number 5 on Bob Hayes, who was the fastest human in the world on Earth, Olympic, and then literally single-handedly changed the way his position, which he had never played, was conducted in pro football.
Are we selling Caitlyn Jenner short?
Yeah, how about decathletes?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at
in 1976. There was not a more popular athlete in the world.
100%, and Michael Phelps belongs in the conversation. I think you have to talk about McEnroe.
He's a swimmer. That doesn't count.
Yeah, you go do what he did. Go do what he did.
Swimming doesn't count.
Isn't it an interesting conversation?
Yes.
Top 5. Who are your top 5?
Well, I like all those. I will just say I watched when I was having insomnia one night on the 30 for 30 of You Don't Know Bo. And they went through the whole thing and just, you remember a lot, but there's so many things that you pick up on. I said, God, this guy is just ridiculous.
Well, the thing is with Bo is if he hadn't got hurt, there's a very good possibility he goes into both Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And remember this, when he was a senior in high school, he won the state high jump. He jumped 6'11" at 235 pounds.
Anybody who's ever played Tecmo Bowl, he's number one. He's definitely number one.
We
on
can
the
argue
list.
about number two, but I don't think we can argue about number one, Brad, with Bo Jackson. I just don't.
I would say Jim Thorpe deserves consideration.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but
I don't know.
Okay, yeah, but
I know.
But what?
You got me hooked, okay?
just enjoy that for the rest of the day.
That's great.
All right, enough. Thank you guys, man. This has been everything
Thanks for having us.
that I would have wanted it to be, and I can't thank you enough for doing this. Thank you guys for watching.
No. Shoopy.
What?
Hold on. We are not stopping yet. We actually have some viewer questions.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I did not anticipate this.
Well, all of a sudden, Shoopy decides
wait,
an hour and a half
more.
into this to make an appearance.
I'll be honest. I saw you put the headset on, and I'm like, is he just pump faking here? Are we actually going to get an appearance?
For the record, this was not my request. This was asked of me.
It's good to chat with you.
Oh, I love you, Josh. First question. Have any of you guys ever worked on the broadcast with someone that you didn't get along with?
Don't answer that, Rons.
I was going to say, I think he's looking at two candidates.
Well, I will say I've had the opportunity to do a lot of different sports, and there were 2 occasions that I did network game. One was national radio, and one was Big 12 television, where I just couldn't get any rapport with the guy. I did a Boston College and somebody game with Mark May, who played for Washington, and I got nothing back from him. And
it's like pulling teeth, isn't it?
Yeah, and I like to be able to have a rapport with you, and I have got to do something together because I've worked with both of them.
All right.
So we got to figure something out.
We'll sign off and figure it.
I really like to establish a rapport, but with him I could get. And then was it Mike Bibby from Arizona was the MOP in the Final Four?
Uh-huh.
So Big 12 basketball. I remember the game was in Waco. I don't remember who Baylor was playing. So it's television, and boy, he was just all about Mike Bibby. I just couldn't get anything going with him.
Do you want to do 7 minutes of hockey like Coop did before?
Well, I'm glad you said that because this gives me an opportunity to say what I have written on the Twitter X, which is, now look, these guys they could both do what you do. And Eric was...
For sure.
Eric might have been a better hockey announcer than he is a baseball announcer, and that's a mouthful. I've stood behind Razor and Ralph, and I grew up watching the original 6. I don't pretend to know the game intimately, but I know a little bit about it. And I've stood behind them, and I listen to you and watch and I'm looking, and I know what you're saying, and I know what you're looking at, but I can't see it.
No.
And you see it, and so I just don't think that people appreciate, as fast-moving as that is, you know who's on what line, and they flash, and they're in, and they're out, and I don't know how you do that.
Well, thank you. That's nice. I just make it up. I just make it all up.
I've never understood how hockey guys do it or horse racing.
Horse racing is the toughest.
That's the hardest.
Do horse racing.
Absolutely the hardest.
All right, well, let's go around the horn here, and each one of you say something about what the other 3 do.
Oh.
You want to go next, Josh?
What a nice way. Yeah. Listen, I think I kind of alluded to this. I probably said it more clunky than I would have wanted to at the beginning. It still feels surreal to me and feels like a treat to be able to be up here in something like this, because growing up, even though it wasn't in Dallas, I grew up a huge fan of sports, and I grew up a huge fan of sports broadcasting. So you come to respect what people have done, and you get to know and learn the greats. And even when it's beyond regional, and some of the greats transcend the market that they're in. And so for me to listen to some of these stories and share some of my own, it truly is, it's a remarkable thing for me that wanted to do this from that young age that I mentioned earlier, that I can be here, and it's a very pinch myself kind of thing to look at Eric and look at Coop and look at Brad and think that, when it comes to the radio play-by-play voices in this city that I round out that for. I think there's a whole lot of just appreciation I have in that, and I'm happy that I can be up here and just play a very small role next to these guys, because they're all fantastic at what they do.
You belong here, man.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
You belong here.
Well, let me say this. I've said this publicly and privately. Eric Nadel is so good that people don't know how good he is. And you need to sometime...
And that was in 1985.
Exactly.
What have we done since then?
You need to sometime close your eyes and just hear everything. He is giving you little details without you knowing that he's giving you details. This is a medium. Someone said it before. This is a medium. Even though we're well aware that people are trying to time up television pictures, we're talking to truck drivers and sightless people and people sweeping out the garage and duck blinds and goodness knows that radio and baseball were made for each other. I still, and I'm not exaggerating, I still learn something about the art of play-by-play every time I listen to it. Today, every time. People do not understand, because Eric's personality is so calm and understated, and it belies what an incredible craftsman he is. And you just need to listen closely to what he's giving you. Chuck, on the other hand,
he's more the sledgehammer.
I really, I'm thrilled to have hired Chuck into the market. And when
you sure are taking credit for that a lot. Right?
Yeah, and I will till I drop.
Absolutely true.
And I will till I drop. And there were times.
That's what I love about it.
There were times that I heard him earlier, before I really came to understand what his capabilities were, that I said out loud to nobody, by myself, Chuck, holy crap, give yourself somewhere to go, son. You're going to have an aneurysm. You'll never make it to the end of the game. But here's what Chuck Cooperstein has that I don't know how many other people have, is such a tangible passion for what he's doing, right. Whether it is a basketball, whether it's a pro basketball game, a college basketball game, a football game. Chuck's passion is something you can almost reach out and touch. And natural enthusiasm and passion cannot be taught. When I started listening to baseball on the radio, I loved the Cubs announcers who were Vince Lloyd and Lou Boudreau. Lou Boudreau was a great player in the late 40s, early 50s, couldn't diagram a sentence with a gun to his head. But the two of them had
organize a shift.
The two of them had the best time, and the Cubs were always horrible, but they would talk about the cigars they were smoking and the hot dogs they were eating. But you realized that the game always took precedent. Not them, not all the periphery. The game was always what took precedence. And I learned from that, and I hear it in Chuck's it's not easy to naturally inject that much. It's beyond enthusiasm. It's passion. And you can't teach that. And it is absolutely transmittable through the radio. Absolutely. You can't listen to him and not be excited about what you hear.
It's one of the very things that drew me to him, to listening to him do play-by-play, the fact that he was just so incredibly into it. And going back to Eric, the word pictures that he paints the detail. When I started hearing that, I thought, man, I've never heard anybody do that like that before.
You know one of my favorite things that Eric did is, and I waited for this every single game, describing the uniforms.
Well,
with the red piping, and you always had the great terms for the uniform on the colors and the piping.
How much sweatshirt is showing? How much blue sweatshirt is showing under the uniform? What color is the glove?
You get all that,
and you don't know he's doing it until you close your eyes and realize I can see the game.
But you're driving down the road and you're seeing that picture.
Correct.
Of all the things I do, and we spend all this time researching stuff and looking stuff up. Of all that stuff that I do, when people compliment me on the broadcasts, 9 times out of 10, it's because I tell them what the uniform is.
and I do. And
I
do
tell
that,
them what the ballpark looks
Well, and I
like.
do it at the start of every game. And of course, in the NBA, I guess it's getting to be more the case in football now too. A little bit in hockey. Nike has just messed up everything. Because it used to be that we were wearing white at home, wearing gray on the road.
Yeah.
But but that's all part of it, right? It's all part of the aura of what you are watching and describe and trying to bring people into it. Because look, I'm excitable, and I make no apologies for that at all. But my feeling always has been, if I'm not going to sound like I care, why should you invest the time in listening to me?
And I think all 4 of us, I think that's one of the common threads. Our love for what we do it comes through. And that's something that the fan needs to hear. They need to know we're happy to be here, and there's no other place we'd rather be. And I think all 4 of us are really good at that.
And just describing that uniform to start the game out, it just puts you in a relaxed mood. Like, okay, all right, I got this down. I know the piping, and I know what color the stripes are.
Yeah, but here's the genius. Here's the genius, though. You can't do it just at the beginning of the game, because for all of us, very few people are sitting down and committing the next 3 hours to every.
Especially now.
Right. The trick is to kind of weave it in every now and then. You make a very subtle offhand reference to something like that, and it just paints the picture. And that's our job.
And you do it well. All of you
Thank
do.
you.
Thank you.
We are very, very lucky to have you guys as a part of the sports scene here in our Fairburn.
Embarrassment of riches.
Thanks for bringing us all together.
You bet.
Yes.
We love being together in the same place. It doesn't happen often.
123 years of play-by-play professional experience.
I'm tired now. I need a nap.
Well, I cannot thank you guys enough for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
Appreciate it.
It was so much fun.
We have more questions?
Okay.
Ironically, we're going to ask this question. What's your most embarrassing moment, or an embarrassing moment, or a moment in your play-by-play that you would take back?
No, I didn't call the Canseco ball off the head properly. I didn't see it go off his head. I thought...
You're not going to beat yourself up for that.
My call was something like, there's a swing, a long drive to right field, and it is off the wall and over the wall. How'd that happen? And then we saw the replay, and we saw that it didn't go off the wall. It went off his head and over the wall. So that's a play that gets replayed a million times every year, and I completely screwed up the play-by-play call.
I can't remember exactly the who and the where, but the moment when the ball goes to the basket, but the net doesn't move. And I called it an air ball, and it was at a really important time of the game. It's like, and I think we're all the same. Like we all listen to ourselves, and we'll all listen back to ourselves, but we all know. Even the moment we take off the headset, we leave, we go home, we know where we messed up. Okay? We know every moment that we messed up. That was a bad one. That was definitely a bad one. And then off the play-by-play, Grego mentioned it earlier. Yes, my Mike Saxon, Jack Del Rio mess up. That was that
wasn't on the air.
No, it wasn't on the air, but it did become immortalized in the Cowboys press room at Valley Ranch when Mike Fisher who was a fairly talented artist, he had a drawing of a.
It's the funniest thing ever.
of a guy wearing number 554.
Two-headed.
No, it was only one headed, but it was 554.
It had a picture of Mickey Spagnola with a mini body and a giant pith helmet. funniest thing. But the only reason I give Coop that is because he never makes mistakes like that. He never makes mistakes. But he made that one, and I will never let it go. I will never let that go.
And Saxon was the greatest because he just played along with it, man. I just kept going. I must have been going for 3 minutes asking him stuff, and he's just answering questions along, and walked away. And I don't remember somebody from one of us in the media's.
I'll tell you who it was. It was Dan Noxon.
Was it Dan Noxon?
Dan Noxon of the Morning News. I was standing right there, and I was just going to let you. I'm like, man, is he doing a joke? He's talking about. And he just kept going. I'm like, Cooperstein doesn't do that. And he just kept going and going.
It was.
And Saxon was telling him all about playing linebacker.
That's
right. Well, it's the only time anybody wanted to talk to Saxon, so he was going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, he didn't punt much.
I think we all. We all hate getting something wrong, and then the game sometimes moves fast, and I don't know who was up here that said there's no do-overs, right? Like, once you say it, you can't get it back. And so, yeah, I look, I know that there's times where I've called the wrong guy, and I can't think of one in particular that stuck with me. It's probably a little bit like Coop said, where it sticks with you for a while, and then it just floats off into the ether. I remember there was one time, and this isn't something that I would hold on like the most embarrassing or the worst, but the Stars were in Florida. And for whatever reason, the angle of the press box that we were at, the Stars are getting beat by 5 goals. It's the third period, and Jamie Benn comes down, and he winds up taking a shot near the side of the net, and the Florida goaltender reaches out his glove and, clear as day from where we are, snags it. No red light comes on that we see. Ben doesn't celebrate. He kind of just stops at the side of the crease. And I call it like it's a save, and Razor starts talking like it's a save. And the next thing you know, the puck is like coming to center ice. and both of us, we were right there just like watching, because there was no reaction from anyone because the goal didn't matter. It made the score like 6-2, 6-1 at the point. And then they just show a replay of Jamie Benn, and it's like the saddest response to a goal because it didn't matter at all. And so our crew, the Fox crew, had this amazing close-up of Ben, and it looked like he had just been robbed on the goal line. And it was just this like the most non-reactive goal reaction of all time. And so we're in the middle. I think Razor's like calling it like it was a replay, and I think I might have said like, I think that puck went in. I think he scored. And Razor almost looked at me like I had 2 heads. He's like, he did? Like, he couldn't believe it. And they kept showing that replay of Jamie Benn. And again, you don't want to turn it into a cackle fest because the Stars were getting beaten pretty badly. And but I just started cracking up in the booth when they showed that picture of Jamie. And that was one that isn't embarrassing, is not terrible, but you don't want to be wrong. And I couldn't have been more wrong than that. And for quite some time, I think when those happen, you try and correct yourself as quickly as possible, and on you go.
And don't acknowledge it. I think it was an exhibition game. They were playing in Detroit once, and I observed that the Lions were playing a formation that included 6 defensive blacks. And I heard that come out of my mouth, and I thought, well, it's true, so we'll let it go. I'll do this as quick as I can. Early 80s, Monday night game at Texas Stadium against the Eagles. And we made a meal of this later. Vern says Danny White's going to punt, and John Shara is back to return the punt for the Eagles. And what he meant to say was that Shara has wrecked the Cowboys' punt coverage all night long. He tragically transposed the P and the C, and his mistake was our producer Gary Brandt was the absolute tower of calm and control, and Vern said that, and I turned to look at Gary in the corner, and we looked at each other and mouthed, "Did he just say that?" And we then looked back at Vern, and his mistake was that he looked back at us to see if we had caught him. And I literally had to take my headset off because I couldn't breathe. I was laughing so hard. And this tower of strength, our producer, I'm not exaggerating, 6'4", great shocking mane of prematurely gray hair, on the floor in the corner, doubled over, couldn't breathe. And we left him out to dry for 2 plays. And so several years later, it was another preseason game, and this was in the mid-'90s. I did the same thing, the exact same thing. I don't remember what the game was. It was a preseason game, didn't matter. I heard myself say it, and I went to school on Vern Lundquist, and I never looked at anyone. And I just kept going right ahead. Never happened.
Did you use the verb wrecked as well?
I believe
somehow, or maybe. Yeah.
The funny thing about you, Brad, and I know you hate it, but everybody loves frustrated Brad Sham.
Oh, listen.
Everybody loves. And some of your best call ever, I'm convinced, was, I forget the player, but the Cowboys didn't take a knee before halftime.
No, it's Tashard Choice.
Yeah,
Tashard Choice. Well, this is one of the things I admire about Eric. I sat next to him for 3 years, so I know exactly when he is disgusted to his core.
Yeah.
But no one knows listening. And if I'm a little bit put off, everybody knows. I don't hide it.
No, it's
and so they've got a lead, and they're going into halftime at RFK Stadium, and all you got to do is just
take a knee.
And they throw a little swing pass in the right flat to Tashard Choice, who's now an outstanding running back coach in college. And he dropped the ball. He caught it. He dropped it. A Washington player picked it up, ran it in for a touchdown, and I said, well, that's why you don't do that, and that's how you lose a game. Halftime.
But at one point, you had your voice go up with the knee. You go, and that's why you take a knee.
Yeah.
No,
Something like that.
My all-time favorite 1985 playoff game in L.A. They're playing the Rams. It's the game where Dickerson goes off for 248.
Oh.
And Dickerson scores the last touchdown and make it 20-0, and Brad just like cross the goal, touchdown, stick a fork in them, they're done.
There's nothing better than frustrated Brad Sham, because that lets every Cowboy fan know, okay, that's it, they're done now. Oh,
that's why you can't lie to the audience. They're feeling the same thing.
Right there with you, man. Oh,
yes,
God.
Groobs. Do you have anything else for us, Groobs?
I do.
You do?
This is going to be a little bit more professional question. What effect has instant replay and, more specifically, rule changes such as pace of play and stuff like that had on your job?
Eric?
Well, the pitch clock saved my career. I would not still be doing this if baseball had not instituted the pitch clock. I was done. And I couldn't stand the games anymore. They weren't any fun to watch. I had always said I would do this as long as it was still fun and they would still have me. It wasn't fun anymore. The games, it's not that they were taking too long, although they were. It's that the pace of play was just insufferable. The relief pitchers, as soon as they would enter the game would go from having a decent pace to being at a standstill. These are the maximum effort guys who want 30 or 35 seconds between pitches to recover, and it ruined the game.
Mike Messina.
And
I, for one, could not agree more with that.
And I literally was not going to work anymore. And then when they put the pitch clock in, I decided, well, I'll come back for one more year, see what it's like. And then, as it turned out, that's the year the Rangers won the World Series. The pitch clock was a huge success, not only in shortening the games, but putting a rhythm back into the game. And now I love it. And now I'm enjoying it as much as I ever did because the games are fun to watch again.
Eric, there's no way God would have cheated you out of that World Series. There is no way.
In basketball, I mean, the rule changes. I mean, instant replay is certainly, I think, especially the playoffs, we take too long. Basically, you make the call on the floor. You should have 90 seconds once when they get and put the headsets on for the first time. You can't decide 90 seconds onward and upward. I do think there was one rule change that came as a result of what the Mavericks did against Minnesota in the conference finals a couple of years ago with Kyrie Irving, and that's now, the ball may go out of bounds off of you, but if I fouled you to get off of it, to have the ball go off of you, they can go back and basically call the foul ahead of time, which I think is good. But they need to go a lot faster than they do. And I don't know what they're doing at the replay center in Secaucus. It's an incredible facility. I mean, we've walked through it. It's really quite amazing. But it's almost like there were too many chefs in the kitchen. Each getting their own little thought process in, and just. It's time to leave it to the three guys calling the game and just let them decide what they're going to do.
What else was going on in Secaucus? Is that where NFL Films is?
No, NFL Film is in
New Jersey.
In South Jersey, Mount Laurel, New Jersey.
Something's in
Secaucus is MLB Productions and NHL Network Productions. Yeah, it's over there.
And a big mall.
What a toilet of a
place. Rule changes, obviously, to keep it more in a broadcasting standpoint, not the people have their thoughts on replay and challenges and all of that and the speed of the game. But what's interesting now in hockey is watching player reactions and watching officials' reactions, because sometimes a goal will be scored and instantaneously that it's going to be a questionable goal because of how they crossed the blue line, whether it was onside or not, or whether there was goaltender interference. And so what it does for our standpoint as play-by-play broadcasters is it kind of forces you to not just 100% focus on the goal, even though that is the primary point, is you're calling the goal. But if you know instantly that it's at least going to be in question, then that becomes part of the story of the goal. And so each one is unique unto itself, but from a technical standpoint, that creates an on-the-spot decision of how you're going to treat that. Because in hockey, you've got, 6 goals on average a game. Those are signature moments. And when one of them might last, might not, in the moment you're trying to give the space to the goal call because that's the play, and yet at the same time acknowledge that there might be something that comes in and changes that. Again, it's different because I simulcast, but the cameras of the coaches are showing them staring down at the screens and whether or not they're going to challenge, or it's showing the goaltender go right at a referee. And so that's part of the story. So that's changed the way you call, because it used to be, you go 20 years ago, like a goal was a goal, and maybe it was a controversial goal, but you knew it was going to be a goal. Yeah. And you could still talk about it and it became part of the narrative. But in the moment, if it was a goal, it was a goal. Yeah. And now that's not necessarily the case anymore. So, over the course of a season, you're going to find times that you have to call certain things differently than you would have.
I'd say one rule change that I hate that hockey did was when they kept the goaltenders behind the net, where goaltenders cannot,
where they can't play the puck.
They can't play the puck. We
Marty
Turco, Ed Belfour before, obviously Martin Brodeur. Why not have a third defenseman? Why not showcase the skill that those guys have beyond the obvious skill of stopping pucks? Yeah. I wish that was still in the game.
But overall, do you guys like replay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. It's the idea is to get it right. Yeah. It takes too long in every sport.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I don't like, and this is more in baseball, Eric, is, and you're seeing more and more of this, you'll see a close play, like somebody stealing second base. And the guy makes the tag. He may overslide the bag just a little bit, and for a nanosecond, he may be off the bag, and he may have the tag on him, and they call him out.
Yeah, I hate that.
that
there should be umpire discretion on that, in my opinion, where if the runner arrives safely, unless it's a blatant overslide, if he just comes off the bag for a second or two, you shouldn't be out. and the umpires should have the ability, the judgment ability to not call the guy out on something like that. But I guess they're trying to not put too much on the umpires
and not create gray area that could definitely leave you open to criticism. I think I don't know how you go back. I think the replay, by and large, it's gotten out of hand. Like it takes way too long. That's the biggest problem with it. But you can't go back to the way it was, right?
No.
You can't have visual evidence within 10 seconds going viral on social media of a horrible call, and then just allow it to be that way because the one guy in the stadium or the rink or whatever didn't see it that way.
But there's no reason why in 90 seconds.
Right. That's the thing.
Right.
If we all know, if 5 million people at home know in 20 seconds, then you don't need to go through the pomp and circumstance of going to a certain area and having everybody collaborate and break out the tablets and everything like that and go under the hood. I think that's more antiquated than getting it right. You could do it quicker. You could have an off-ice official. You could have an eye in the sky whose lone job it is to do that and get all of these answers in 30 seconds, and then you're getting it right, and you're not crushing the timing of the game the way current replay
seems like that
does.
would be easily done.
It sure does. It sure does.
And in baseball, you're seeing it different. You're seeing, almost never see this, that, when you put a tag on somebody, you keep the glove on them.
Just in case.
You
right?
keep it on them for an extra couple seconds now to where, used to, somebody did that to Frank Robinson, hold a glove on him. That probably wouldn't work out.
Yeah, the issue that I have with it is this whole idea that there has to be incontrovertible evidence to overturn. For me, once it goes back to the replay command center, they shouldn't even know what the call was on the field. Start fresh, and they make the call.
That's a good point.
Not that they have to overturn something that happened on the field that was called by one of their fellow umpires. This is part of the problem, is that the replay officials are current umpires. Anytime they overturn a call, they're overturning a call made by a guy they might be working with next week. So
I didn't realize that's a problem.
They are very reluctant to do that.
And we have that in the NBA, too.
And that's one of the reasons that so many calls are not overturned that seem to be the wrong call. This whole idea that you have to show evidence that the call was correct, dramatic evidence. No, just call it. It goes to the replay official. It doesn't matter what the call was on the field. Get it right. And again, I don't think it should be current umpires. It should be retired umpires. It should be college umpires. It isn't brain surgery. It's not that hard to look at all these replay angles and decide what the call should be, especially if you're not influenced by what the call was on the field at the time.
What is their reason for not doing that? Is it a union deal?
Maybe. I don't really know.
Because that just makes too much sense.
And again, it seems like it could be pretty easily done.
Yep.
We know what a buddy system those umpires are.
For sure.
I mean, they can't be fired. They're like Supreme Court justices. They get a job for life.
Man, thank you. Eric, Chuck, Josh, Brad.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Greg.
Great. And
is this a real sign off?
This is, he's not here.
I'm looking at Shoopy.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Shoopy's not up here to stop it, so. All right.
Oh, Groom's just waved us off, so we're done.
So we're done.
This is the longest in history. Yeah.
Thank you for watching. Bye. All right. I'm going to go take my pants off. Your Dark Companion is a Stolen Water Media presentation.